Mine is the only voice you
Wow.
What
hear.
have I been doing?
Lay down my autonomy.
After that, it got very dark very quickly.
Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of Cults to Consciousness. I'm Shali Sansola, your host today, and we're so excited to bring back someone who you've all been so excited to hear from as well. We had incredible comments from all of you on her full interview, which we will link in the description if you haven't seen that yet. You don't have to watch that first. You can watch this one, go back and watch that later. We are talking about America's Next Top Model. Thank you so much for joining us, Sarah Hartshorne.
Hi, thank you so much for having me. The comments really were amazing. This is really an incredibly smart, thoughtful audience.
Thank you. Yes, we feel honored to have attracted those type of people and garnered this community because, as you know, social media can be absolutely brutal. And so we are so grateful to everyone who leaves those comments, those words of encouragement, as I call it. And yeah, there's so much to talk about today. And I was even thinking about it as we were going through your initial interview, the things that we didn't get to. And I thought, you know what, I'll just save it for a live. So I'm glad I did. If you're joining us live, thank you so much for being here. Make sure to leave your questions in the chat. Jonathan will be moderating, starring those comments. We'll bring them up in about 5 or 10 minutes. So load those up now if you have any. So for those who are like, wait, why are we talking about America's Next Top Model? There's so much to cover here and really get into, and I do think it's a nuanced discussion. Your video got so many views, it went way beyond our normal audience, and so of course
Oh,
we're gonna get
wow.
we're gonna get some people who are like, what is this? This isn't a cult, and also some of our original audience saying, this is so different, why are we talking about this? But also people who can see the similarities. So I just thought we would address that first, go over it a little bit, and talk about why we are covering America's Next Top Model. So, Sarah, you were on season 9, and we talked in depth about it in your interview. You talk even more depth about it in your book, You Want to Be on Top. And there's just so much to get into. But the one thing that I want to say right off the bat is, even though it doesn't look and sound like the typical cults that we normally cover on this channel, or if you're new here, the cult that comes to mind, right? People often have this idea that is put in their head through Hollywood and these dramatized versions of what cults really are. It's still important to cover because it is so nuanced and normalized. So the things that Sarah went through, and we're going to get into that, really get into the psychological cult types of situations, not necessarily the hardcore capital A abuse or capital T trauma, but definitely things that can cause PTSD symptoms or CPTSD symptoms, and things that often go unnoticed, which is why we're talking about it now, because if we continue to normalize situations and shows like this, and then maybe you get out into the real world and something similar happens to you, maybe you're not going to clock it as easily because it's been normalized or because it hasn't been talked about. So that's kind of my first out the gate thing, but I want to throw it to you, Sarah. So
Yeah.
in your mind, what are the top reasons that you feel that ANTM is a cult or behaved like a cult?
I mean, I'm going to be honest. I didn't think of it as a cult. I didn't even think of that angle until I was talking to my editor. I was well into the process of writing the book, and she recommended a couple books. And she said, "You know what? Can I recommend that you read Amanda Montell's Cultish first?" And I thought, okay, weird. But I thought, it's a memoir. It's like a sort of a memoir. It's nonfiction. I was like, I get it, but I wasn't really sure why she was recommending it, so strongly. And I was maybe 15 pages in, and I was like, oh no, it was a cult. And it was so humbling because I think we do have a lot of preconceived ideas of what a cult is, and also we have an idea of how we would respond if someone tried to get us into a cult, or if we got sucked
Yeah.
into the sort of, onboarding process. We want to think that we know how we would react, or that we would recognize it. And so it was very humbling to realize that I absolutely not only had I not recognized it, I hadn't even processed it in my memories that way, even to the point of being well into writing the book. And there were so many things that I wasn't aware of until I started sort of seeing my own experiences on the page. But one of the things that she breaks down much better than I'm going to do here in my little recap is just sort of that there are different levels of like quote unquote cult, right? And there's like
Yeah.
sort of harmless things or harmless sort of communities that do use a lot of the same tools and manipulations that cults do totally harmlessly, right? And I think the best example that she gave that I really resounded with was like Soul Cycle. Is that doing harm? Nah. Is it using repetitive language? Yes. Is it, maybe like making people feel like they're a part of something bigger? Yeah, absolutely. And it's harmless, and it's just a fitness class, that is also a little culty, and that's okay. And so there's gradations, right? And so I think, I am not saying that Tyra Banks is a cult leader. I'm not saying that there necessarily even was like a malicious sort of intent to create
Sure.
a cult, but I am saying that the producers used a lot of tactics that cults use to inspire obedience and to control behavior. And like Greek life is another great example. Sororities and fraternities use a lot of manipulative tools to keep people in line, basically, and to inspire this feeling of like of insular, like looking in and not really being able to look out. And so when you think about
Yeah.
America's Next Top Model, I'd say the top three things that just come off the top of my head to sort of defend why I do say America's Next Top Model is culty is: number one, the repetitive language. For days we were kept in windowless rooms, whether it was in a hotel room where the windows were blocked out so we couldn't see what time of day it was. And then once we were shooting the first episode, we were on a cruise ship. So we were in windowless cruise ship conference rooms, which is just a really depressing sentence. Like, why do conference rooms exist on a cruise ship at all?
Yeah.
Who is having conference meetings on cruise ships? I'll tell you, reality shows. Um, and they would use the same phrases over and over and over again to let us know that in signing the contract, we had really signed away any like any we had signed away a lot of our rights, we'd signed away our life rights, we had signed away sort of the ability to have agency. And so the phrases I remember they used were, we will dock your wages for the rest of your life. And they never said, we will take a percentage of your earnings for as long as you were alive, or we will take some of your money as long as we have to. It was, we will dock your wages for the rest of your life. And I remember that phrase because I called another contestant when I was writing about this particular part of the process. And she said that phrase right back to me. And I was like, that was it. It was always those exact words. And one of the other phrases was, there are a million girls that would kill for this opportunity, and we have their phone number. So they use
Mm-hmm.
this drilling of repetitive language to really like kind of create pathways in our brains that said they are in power, we are not, over
Yeah.
and over again. And the other thing is just, I mean, anytime I think something that maybe we don't think about when we watch reality shows, and isn't always true in every reality show, it's different depending on the type of show and depending on what's happening. But I mean, for up to 2 months, while we were filming the bulk of the show, that's not even including the first episode, and that's not including anything that happened like after the winner was announced. But the bulk of that shooting was about 2 months. And for that time, they controlled when we ate, what we ate, when we could go to the bathroom, if we were allowed to talk. We spent hours not allowed to talk, not given books or iPods, and this was before cell phones. So we were forced to just sit with with our thoughts for
And
hours.
not even
And
journals, right? Didn't you mention they
mhm,
took your journals?
yeah, we did have journals that we were allowed to keep. And it's interesting. I know some reality shows will allow you to have a journal, but they will confiscate the journal before they let you go home.
Okay.
And they will rip out all the pages that you wrote about them. And that level of control is always, to me, a little culty. Anytime you
Yeah.
ask someone, can I go to the bathroom? And they say no, I'm going to say why are the power dynamics like that? What's going on? Why does that level of control need to be happening?
Yeah, I agree. And also controlling what you could say on your phone calls with your boyfriend of you can't say that, you can't say that. Complete monitoring and also just cutting you off from the outside world while pretending like you're in it. And so one of the things that people were saying was, "Oh no, you volunteered to be there and you have this opportunity of a lifetime." Okay, but how many people join cults with this idea of I have the possibility of eternal salvation or I have the possibility of enlightenment. All I have to do is suffer, suffer, suffer until I can get there. It's just that your reward was closer to the finish line than most of these cults present. And also, did you really know what you were signing up for? When you signed on the dotted line, you saw an opportunity and you saw this TV show and you said you had watched a couple seasons, but did you really understand how difficult and how horrible it was going to be once you got there?
Yeah, I mean, I get that a lot. People say you knew what you were signing up for, and I say, well, I didn't know what I was signing up for, and I don't think anyone does when they sign up for a reality show. That to me is not even the issue because you know, that's a very hard thing. We never know you don't know what you're signing up for. I live in New York City. I don't know what I'm signing up for when I walk out my door. So there's a lot of unpredictable factors, and that makes sense. To me, the thing is like I would have I would have dealt with any carrot. No, I'm sorry, that's not how the saying goes. I would have dealt with any stick given the carrot that they were dangling, which was fame.
Sure.
Right? And a lot of people feel that way. We're like, okay, well, we'll do whatever it takes if we get to yeah, have that eternal salvation, that whatever it is that is promised, right?
Yeah.
Um, but my thing is the thing that fashion and reality shows have in common is that they are middle-aged people, mostly men, exploiting young people, mostly women.
Mm,
And that to me is where the damage really lies. Like, did I know what I was signing up for? No. But did the much older producers know what I was signing up for? Yes. And did they understand what they were putting me through? I mean, I have to think so. They were much older than me. They had prefrontal frontal cortexes developed. I didn't, you know? And
yeah.
when I look at an 18, 19-year-old now, I'm like, oh, wow, you're a absolute ding dong. You don't know anything. I didn't know anything. So,
Yeah. Yeah, so
yeah.
that's another reason why it's tricky because you are getting these young minds who just have the biggest goals and dreams and they'll do anything to achieve it, which means they're willing to take these sort of hits with whatever production throws at them and really get trampled all over for the hope that maybe something will come of it, all while not getting paid at all. Which I saw one of the comments was like, "Oh no, they paid for your board and you had food and blah 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 and you flew places. So sad." And I was like, "Oh my gosh." First of all, most of these girls have already moved out of their parents' home. They're already paying rent and now they don't have an income to continue to pay for that lifestyle on whatever job that they may have gotten as a teenager straight out of high school or right into college. Not to mention, you had to pay for your own food. You were given a stipend that's barely anything. And
Hmm.
so, sure, they were giving you a house to live in with a bunch of other girls, but can we even talk about, there's so many things here. Can we talk about the showers though? I mean, they're even I'm gonna let you tell it. I'm gonna let you tell it.
Yeah, yeah. So we 13 of us moved into the house after almost, I think, like a 16-hour, 17-hour day. We'd been in some level of production. We did like the promo shoots and then we were on camera for the first time. And they showed us meeting Mr. J, getting into the van and going to the house, which was about 30 seconds of footage on the show, but in reality took, you know, that 30 seconds was about probably 10 hours, not including the shooting all of the promo shots that morning. So it was a long day and we were all pretty fried. And also add in the adrenaline of just it was happening, the weeks and weeks of auditioning and trying out and the hours of psychological testing, the physical testing that, they literally had our blood, sweat, and tears. They had our pee, they had our blood, they had our hair, they had tested everything. We'd
They
done
did
fill
an
in the blank.
OB exam.
They did an
Like,
OB exam.
what?
Um, we had met with multiple therapists and psychologists and done fill in the blank personality testing. And this is all over I mean, this is months of buildup and it's happening, you know. I remember when we first saw Mr. J, Bianca said, "Oh shit, it's happening." And then someone said, "Cut." And I was like, that, I don't know a lot about TV production, but that feels right. Like, oh shit, here it is. Days of waiting. Here we go.
Yeah.
Cut, you know. um, and then, so we arrive at the house. There's 13 of us, and we've already been told, I think we knew that the theme was environmentalism. That was the theme of the season. Um, I'm pretty sure because the van said green is the new black. Also worth noting, they transported us around in this beautiful van, right? It was this van that had a skin all over it that said green is the new black, and fashion is or like you know, environmentalism is fashion or something. And really what it was a van with all the windows blacked out. We couldn't see out the windows. So we were driving around the Hollywood Hills in a van with no windows. Everyone got so car sick all the time. It was miserable, that freaking van. And I'm pretty sure if I smelled the smell of that van, I would remember it and get nauseous. Like I can viscerally remember. But so we've, you know, driven through the hills in this windowless van, and that looks really fancy, and makes us all sick. And we've arrived. And I remember like some of us were literally rocking because it had been 16 hours. We were so tired and we could see the house, but we weren't allowed to go in yet because they had to set up the shot. So we're just like, you know, like we're so close. It's right there. It's happening. And then we go in the house, and then they're like, okay, we have to lay out the rules. And they laid out the rules that when we woke up, the first thing we had to do, even if we were going to go right in the shower, was get mic'd. And then you could take off the mic when you went in the shower. But first thing, if you woke up at night, you did not have to go get mic'd. But if anyone else woke up, even if you guys didn't talk to each other, if more than one girl had insomnia, you had to go get mic'd.
So there was just
And
an audio guy on standby just in case someone
all
woke
the
up in the middle
time,
of the
yeah,
night.
yeah. There was a little like part of the house that where they had disguised a door as they turned it into, it looked like a wall, but it opened, and there was a little like I can't even think of the word. Like a little. There were producers back there all the time, 24/7. There were cameras all
Uh-huh.
over the house, like security style cameras, and mounted footage. So they were watching us all the time. And yeah, there was a sound guy there. There was a whole crew there all the time, even in the middle of the night, ready in case any of us woke up. As far as I know, it was mostly just Ambrielle. She had terrible insomnia. Um, I woke up a couple times and I would hear her, but I wouldn't, you know, I was like, I don't want to have to get mic'd.
Yeah.
um, so I would stay in bed, but you had to get mic'd right away. You had to do the confessional for 5 minutes every day, no matter what. You didn't have to say anything, but you had to sit in the confessional room for 5 minutes every day. And then the other rule was that if you were alone in the bathroom stall, so the bathroom was sort of open plan, which sounds very weird for a bathroom, but it was like, you know, it had a bathtub and a sink and a shower, and then it had these little stalls for the toilets. There were two of them. And the rule was if you were alone in that stall or you were alone in the shower, they would not film you. But if there was more than one of you for any reason, for any amount of time, then they could film you. And so they
Yikes.
explained that. And then they were like, and the theme of this season is environmentalism. And remember, in the morning, you know, it's going to take a really long time for all 14 of you to shower and get ready. And you'll only have a certain amount of time. And we're going to have to leave really early. So you guys should shower together for the environment. And I was like,
Just
yeah,
the
totally, for
loopholes
the
they're baking
environment.
in so that they can record you showering together. Did it happen? Did girls do that?
Mhm. Yeah, girls showered together. Also,
Did
I
anyone
remember,
connect those dots though? Of like, wait, maybe we shouldn't because then they can film us naked?
no, we knew. It was shocking how quickly we all got comfortable with the cameras. For the first like 2 days, we were all changing under our bathrobes and sweaters, you know, and being so careful, or like sneaking into the stall to change. And then I remember like 3 days in, like someone was like shaving their leg, like with it propped up, you know, just like vag out. And one girl was like clicking, you know, clipping her toenails. Oh no, me, I was clipping my toenails. And I was just like, meh. Um,
Well, in some ways
And
I
you just
get
got used
that.
to it really
I mean,
fast.
because whatever, be naked, it doesn't matter to me. If you're naked in front of me, whatever. But the
Yeah.
fact that they're filming it and that someone is watching, that's a thing that bothers
Yeah.
me. And I know that they also try to normalize being naked in the modeling industry. It's like you don't have time to care. You're always just naked changing in the back of runway shows or whatever it is. And so I
And I
get
will
that
say,
they try to normalize that, but the
yeah,
filming thing,
that
mm-mm.
is accurate because you'll be in castings, for even like a catalog brand or something, and they might have a changing room where you can change, but probably they're just going to have a screened off part of a room where you're changing with a bunch of other models. And
Yeah.
also, when you're on set, like you might have privacy to change, but then like I remember one time, I had someone like doing my hair, and then I had someone else who was like trying to like do something to my eye makeup, and then there was a stylist like shoving her hands down my shirt, like getting a chicken cutlet in my bra. Like you do have to get very comfortable, and it is like I'm not saying if you want to model you have to get naked, but I am saying it's going to make your life a lot easier if you don't care. And I still to this day I am that naked lady in the changing room, and like yeah. And now I'm the old, middle-aged naked lady in the changing room, and I'm like, I don't care. I don't care.
Whatever.
Yeah.
So let's get to a few questions if we have any, and then we will continue this with some other things we had planned. That seems like trafficking. They made millions off that show and paid nothing. I know, that's the thing. That was the other
Yeah.
point I wanted to get to that I didn't yet. So thank you, M. Peters, for bringing this up. So not only are they not getting paid, but the show is actively profiting because aren't you doing actual ad campaigns for brands while you're on
Hmm.
the show for free? That's insane. I mean, those things
Yeah.
pay out like upwards of 30 grand sometimes for
Yeah.
one.
Yeah. Doing ads. And I mean, shooting music videos. We shot a music video, um, doing photo shoots and working, the 16-hour days, sometimes longer.
Yeah.
And no, the show is financially devastating. Everyone comes away with less money than they went in, except for the winner. And not for nothing. So the contract for the winner. I mean, we all sign a contract as though we're going to win. We all, like they get all kinds of family photos. You sign away your life rights, and you give them all the information as though you're going to win. Um, and it's really interesting because I was talking to a winner, and she was explaining how it actually worked. You don't actually get $100,000. You are promised $100,000 worth of work over the course of a
Right.
year. So you're not even getting like one bulk payment that also, by the way, gets taxed. All of those payments making up the $100,000 are paid in smaller payments over the year, and they all get taxed. So not only is it really closer to $50,000, it's $50,000 in a bunch of small payments over the course of a year, which is
Yeah.
about, which again, and I'm not trying to downplay that. $50,000 is not nothing, especially in 2007. Like
Sure.
$50,000 in 2007 is a big deal. I understand that. I'm not trying to downplay it, but it's not like you win and then you are financially comfortable. You're not. You win and you are still financially devastated, and you have to wait to work. You have to wait for the opportunity to work for the money that you won.
Right, which is
Uh,
also the funny thing because is it a prize if you're working to earn it still?
yeah, the idea is that you will shoot $100,000 worth of CoverGirl or whoever the sponsor. They've had
Yeah.
different sponsors over the years, but when I was there, it was CoverGirl. You will be given $100,000 worth of CoverGirl work.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, I mean, it's hard because I also have the perspective of wanting so badly to get into the modeling industry, and I barely poked my head in because, as I mentioned in your interview, I was too short and too curvy. But I remember being like, man, I would take any job. I'll just print job. Give me something so I can be like, yes, I did a print job. And so I get the just burning desire to want to get that modeling work because it is so difficult. The industry is so cutthroat. So on one hand, I'm like, yeah, that's awesome that you win a year's worth because modeling is all just entrepreneurial work, right? Your agent sends you out and you have to audition and you may not get it. And so it's still a grind. Like you're not just all of a sudden a model now because you were on the show. You still have to work and work and work just to book a job. So I can see
yeah.
how that's really enticing and how that can be great in so many ways. And on the other hand, could they not just throw in a cash prize for how much money they were making off of all of you guys?
Well, also, I mean, I think the idea is that a cash prize is more enticing if people aren't being compensated for their time. And I think that that is flawed. I think that's flawed thinking. I think like especially given just how much money the show made. I mean,
Yeah.
just every judge certainly made enough to be financially secure for the rest of their lives, no matter what. And so there was money to be spent and there was money to be given, and I think like yeah, I don't think people necessarily understand like how financially devastating it was, because yeah, if you had rent, that was not covered by the show, and so you had to
Hmm.
either give up where you lived or you had to figure out some way to pay rent while not working for up to 2 months. um, and also, after the show, they stop paying for food, but they don't let you go home. They keep you in a hotel room. You're not given the key to that hotel room. You're not allowed to leave. I was there for 2 weeks, which again, this is one of those things where I'm like, I understand. Like, I talked to some people and they're like, oh my God, I was going crazy in the hotel room. And I was like, I loved it.
Yeah.
If I
The
could have two
introvert's
weeks
dream.
alone in a hotel room right now, that would be without feeling guilty and without missing my kid. Oh, ooh, oh, that would
Yeah.
be a dream. But they didn't pay for food. And I ran out of money really fast. And so yeah, I remember for some reason we got free cookies from the hotel. And one girl was like, because we did sneak out and talk to each other. We were not supposed to, but we did. We would sneak because they're all the girls that got eliminated were in the hotel. So we would sneak out. And one girl was like, I'm gonna live off cookies. I'm gonna do it. Like every day I'm eating a freaking cookie. And by day, I don't know, 6, she was like, I hate these fucking cookies. And also, I'm sure the hotel hated us because we had no money. And
Yeah.
I don't think I knew enough to tip at the time. And so I would get the cookies and I wouldn't freaking tip. And I, I love, I'm freaking haunted by the tips I didn't leave.
Oh.
But seriously, like where I have since being on the show, I've worked in a hotel and I know it's, and I'm like, I wish
Well, the thing that's so crazy though, and I was talking to Jonathan about this, he's the one that brought this up because we both did background work also. So I did it in Vegas, he did it in LA. In Vegas, it was like $125 for the day, and they can keep you for up to 12 hours and then you get overtime or something. In
yeah,
LA, I
that's what it
think it
was in
was
New
like
York.
85 bucks a day. And he was like, even the background workers got better treatment than these women who were stars of this show for months at a time. Even background gets fed. Even
Yeah.
background gets free snacks. Even background gets paid. It was just like, how this does
Yeah.
not make any sense.
We did get free snacks, and I was really good about
Okay.
stealing them, I will say. Yeah. I remember like they were like, "Oh, you have to." I had been eliminated, and they were like, "Oh, you have to come to set to be a decoy," because that's why they kept us after we got eliminated, was so we could go back on set and
Hmm.
be basically decoys. Anytime they were in a public place, they
Oh.
wanted, to have girls that like had been eliminated to sort of throw off the paparazzi. And I was like, I don't want to do it. I'm not going. I'm not going. And then I was like, ooh, I do
But
need
crafty.
food. I am out. I'm almost out of food. So I was like, all right, fine, I'll do it. And so we went. I was like stuffing crafty in my bag.
Oh,
Um,
yeah.
and yeah, and then yeah, walking in a fashion show. And they brought girls to China too. I mean, they would bring girls to the international location, and they again would be kept in a hotel where they didn't have the key. And this time, it was a much smaller crew, and so they got a lot less time out of the room because we would have like our handlers come and like take us for a walk basically, like we were
Handlers. Just the
dogs.
fact
Yeah,
that you had a handler. That, I
I
mean,
know. Yeah,
it
there
really
are
doesn't get more
handlers
control than that.
for children, animals, and reality contestants.
Yeah, I remember getting scolded by one of the handlers for having a conversation off camera. They're like, now you're gonna have to do it all over again and pretend that this didn't happen. I was like, sorry.
Yeah. No talking. Yeah.
Yeah.
That was
So,
the refrain of shooting top model. No talking.
it's the worst. Let's see if we have
Mm.
any other questions before we continue. That was a great question. We had a lot, got a lot from there. Greg, how could the legal issues not get questioned by all this exploitation?
That's a great question. They have been questioned. There are some former contestants who are looking into various legal action, but you know, a lot of it was technically legal. We did sign a contract. We agreed to all of it.
That's so
And
hard because you made it that far. You're not gonna not sign the contract.
well, I think, a lot of people are like, well, I wouldn't. And I'm like, well, that's great. You were smart. Good for you. You were smarter than me.
I wouldn't.
All
I would have
right.
signed it. If I made it on the show, I would have been like, sure, whatever you want.
Yeah.
Let's do
Come on now.
this. Yeah.
Was that necessarily a smart decision that I made? No.
Yeah.
All right.
Well, it's also our naivety being so young and so aspirational of like they're gonna have our best interests in mind, right? They wouldn't do us they I mean they wouldn't put anything in here that would harm me, right? You're not thinking that TV is gonna do that to you because I mean you don't know. You're new to the industry, you're new to all of
Yeah.
it. And you specifically were chosen 2 girls out of 10,000 at your audition, right? So this is a huge deal to get to this point.
I think, yeah, for the first episode, there were something like 4 girls from Boston, all told. But that, I mean, yeah, 10,000 girls tried out in Boston, and 4 made it onto the into the first episode, and I think 3 made it into the house. Me,
Yeah.
Mila, and Victoria, I think we're all from Boston.
Yeah. So that's another thing which is often talked about in cults, which is the sunk cost fallacy of, well, I've come so far, I've invested so much, I'm here, I made it. Cults generally get worse as you're in it longer. They start to reveal more information about themselves until you get to the top and you're like, what the, where am I? This is crazy.
Hmm.
But you are in such a state where you don't really question it because this is what you've been working for, right? This is why you've spent all your time and your money, your tithing money, or whatever it is that you've sunk into this organization or religion. So by the time it gets super crazy, it would feel almost like you're betraying yourself by turning around and saying, never mind, because that means all of that work was for nothing, all that suffering was for nothing.
Yeah, but some girls did, and I truly like. I am so astonished by their bravery and their fortitude. And it what's crazy is that it just never even occurred to me. Like I remember when Ebony left, I was like, I didn't even know
Right.
that was an option. Like that's crazy.
Right.
Um, but yeah, it's also like, I don't think that yeah, like I said, ANTM is on the spectrum of cults for sure. It's culty, but I like to say it's like they compress it all very, 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 very quickly because then you're done.
You
Then
can't
you're
process
done
it.
shooting. They let you go, right? It's not a lifetime thing.
Yeah.
Once you're off the show, well, once you're eliminated, then you're kept in a hotel room for an indeterminate amount of time where they don't pay for your food and where you're not allowed to leave. But once you are able to leave that hotel room, you're out, and
Yeah.
uh you're not contractually obligated to them anymore. You're not in the cult.
But didn't you mention in an interview that you did sign something about not disparaging the group or anything? And you're like, I don't care. I'm going to talk about it anyway.
Yeah, you're not allowed to. Yeah, well, there's the NDA. You're not allowed to disclose a lot of things. Um, and there were various parts of that expired at different times. Like some expired a year after, once the winner was announced, obviously you were allowed to say who the winner was, like
Yeah.
once everyone knew, you can say that all you want. And then certain things expired after I think like 5 years, and then a lot of the contract expired 3 years after the final episode of the show aired.
Okay.
Not
So you were
your,
still
not
under
my
contract though.
cycle. Yes, yes. In certain ways, we were still, yeah. But that's the NDA. That's not the like what we agreed to during shooting.
Right.
Um, but yeah, there were sort of 2 contracts. Well, there were a bunch. It was like this thick.
Yeah. Yeah, it's crazy. So one thing I also wanted to talk about that we didn't really get into in your interview was how they in a way hijacked your identity to be whatever they wanted it to be, but then also demonized you for it. So I'd like to talk about your name and the hair.
Yeah. Well, the hair is another thing that's pretty culty. I mean, anywhere that's, shaving girls' heads.
I
Just because
know,
it's not all
right?
the same makeover doesn't mean it's not still control over our self-expression and how we look.
Yeah.
Um, but uh, yeah, so my name is Sarah Banks Hartshorne. My Banks is my middle name, Hartshorne is my last name. Hartshorne is long and sort of hard to spell, and so when I was in high school, I went by Sarah Banks, and then going into college, I went by Sarah Banks because it was just easier and it made my dad mad. And so I just liked it. Um, Also, I just sort of thought it sounded more glamorous. I liked Sarah Banks, and it was one of those, you know, youthful sort of attempts to forge your identity. Like also for a while, my name's Sarah. I spelled it Cera. That did not stick. I didn't. I don't have the fortitude. I don't look like a Cera Sarah. I'm a Sarah. I am who I am. That's okay. But I did really like Sarah Banks, and I also was really, really close to my grandfather, and that's where I got the name. So I really loved that name. And I remember my cousin was an actress, and she was on a soap opera when she was a teenager. And my dad was like, she spells her name. She kept Hartshorne. Like you can be Hartshorne. I was like, I know. I really like Banks. Um, and I wanted to be Banks. And at some point during the audition process, I'd auditioned in person, and I had sort of thought nothing was going to happen. I mean, I think it was months later, I got a call from a PA who said, I want to talk about your name. No, I'm so sorry. It was not a PA. That came later. It was a casting associate.
Hmm.
And she said, I want to talk about your name. And I was like, okay. And she was like, which is it? Is it Sarah Banks or Sarah Hartshorne? Because you said Sarah Banks when you were like filling it out, but then later you refer to yourself as Sarah Banks. And I was like, oh well, my full name is Sarah Banks Hartshorne, but I go by Sarah Banks. Um, and I know that Hartshorn's really long. Like we don't have to, you don't have to use it because I figured they didn't like Hartshorne because it's long and hard to
Mm,
pronounce. And she was like, no, 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 no. Um, let's do Sarah Hartshorne because Sarah Banks sounds too much like Tyra Banks, and we don't want that. And I was like, right, no, we don't want that. I'll be Sarah Hartshorne. And so I just was Sarah Hartshorne going forward.
yeah. Well, I think it's not a huge thing, of course, but again, this is why
No,
we're talking about this because it's the little things, the chipping away at the identity about that individual expression that you have cultivated for yourself. And these little things will add up. And that's why people don't really recognize it right off the bat because it's like, oh, it's no big deal. It's just a name or it's just a haircut. But all of that combined slowly chips away at who you are as a person. And that's how these cults get you. So by the end of it, you have a completely different look. Maybe you're in a totally different wardrobe off in a compound somewhere, and then you don't realize it because anyone from the outside looking in would be like, how did she fall for that? How did she go? But it's slow and it's steady to where they make you think it's not a big deal. Just wear
yeah,
the pants, just wear the long sleeves, just wear the bonnet or whatever it is.
hmm,
And next thing you know, you're just
yeah.
completely not yourself anymore.
No, it was just a casual phone conversation. And then, yeah. And then when we did get the makeover, also, sorry, just to, before I talk about the makeover, which I do want to talk about, they did that in a lot of really subtle ways to a lot of girls. And like, I feel like my example is not that egregious because my full name is Sarah Hartshorne. It's not like they made me fully change it. I was bummed. And a lot of times now I do wish I could go by Sarah Banks because, like I said, I really love that name. Um, but like I remember there was one girl who is Hawaiian and grew up in Hawaii, and it's a really important part of her identity. But they had another contestant who had lived in Hawaii and who lived in Hawaii at the time of the audition. And this contestant had moved away. She'd moved away from Hawaii and she was living in a mainland city. I forget which. And so they were like, you can't be the Hawaiian one because she lives there now. So you're going to be from this major city. And she was like, okay. But I mean, that's not a small part of someone's identity, right? Like
Right.
that's a bit, when you meet someone from Hawaii, it's like Harvard. They let you know right away, And so like she kind of had to like keep that sort of undercover, and they wouldn't ask her about it and she couldn't really talk about it. And so they did stuff like that in a lot of different ways. And then yeah, the makeover, they cut all my hair off and I loved it. I loved my haircut so much. I was super happy about it. They could have done anything to me. They could have shaved my head. I was like, look, I think I have a weird shaved head, but you want to shave it? Go for it. I got a flat spot on the back. Who cares? Let's go. Because I was truly in hook, line, and sinker. But then after the show, when I went to agencies, they were all like, oh, you can't have short hair and be a plus size model. Come back in a year when your hair is long. So that should have been my first inclination that they maybe didn't have my best interests as a professional model at heart. It wasn't because
Right.
I was really slow, but it could have been.
Well, Also, though, so production is in charge of this look, right? Even if I really hate to think, and I want your opinion on this, I really don't think that it was just the stylist who was like, I'm gonna do this thing, because they never have creative control over stuff like this. I guarantee you, production was like, we're gonna chop her hair, stylist, this is your option, tell her this is your idea. I mean, what do you think about that, first of all?
Oh, they definitely, I don't know exactly who chooses the makeover, but I do know that it's decided before you're at the salon because they presented it to us before we were at the salon. They told us what was going to happen. Um, they have these like these CGI things where they take a photo of us and then like would CGI it into what they were going to do.
Yeah.
And so it's definitely not up to the stylists. Um, I think the makeup artist did get some creative like agency. They would be told sort of the concept. And then a
Yeah.
lot of times they could kind of go wild with the makeup. But for the makeovers, it was definitely decided before we got the to the salon. So they
Mm-hmm.
definitely were given like this is what you have to do to that hair. And I do think that some of the like spur of the moment decisions, like I think I can't prove that they were going to shave Bianca's head, but I think they were going to shave Bianca's head.
Yeah.
Or I
So the
think they were going to save
reason
shave somebody's head. And yeah.
Yeah. The reason I wanted to ask you that and get your opinion is because later in the show, they start criticizing the hair. Like they don't like it. It makes you look, what did they say, butch or lesbian or something? And you're like, Didn't you want this?"
Oh no, they would just ask me. I think really it's like like the executive producers or maybe Tyra or I don't know, someone high up decides on the makeovers and then
Uh-huh.
they do them. And then, the associate producers or or the line producers or whoever's doing the interview would try to find ways to get you to talk badly about the
Okay,
makeover.
they're fishing. They're
Yeah,
fishing to get you to say something negative.
they're trying to show that you're upset and that you don't like it. And they absolutely I was like, I'm sorry, you've brainwashed me too well. I like what
I
if
love
you
it. It's
say I
amazing.
like it, I like it. I'm in. I look like Rihanna. I'm awesome. It was the Karen haircut, but at the time it was the Rihanna haircut.
Yeah.
And so I was like, no, I love it.
That's
Um,
so funny.
and yeah, I mean, they
Well,
tried every angle. They were like, "Are you worried it makes you look too mannish?" I was like, "No." And they were like, "Are you worried it makes you look too fat?" I was like, "No." And they were like, "Are you worried it's going to make you look more plus size? Are you worried it's going to make you look less plus?" They were trying. I mean, they were trying everything. They were like, "Are you worried it's going to
be
be
worried.
bad?" And I was like, "I am now. Thanks."
Yeah. Yeah, and that's why it's too fishy, right? It feels like they purposely wanted to give you this haircut hoping you would hate it and it would create some sort of stir and make you insecure and then make you do poorly on the show. I mean, everything just seems so contrived, these puppets on strings, and you just have to go along with it.
I mean, they tried to punk Heather and convince her that they were going to cut all her hair off. And she, rightfully so, I think, was like, I think they thought because I am autistic that I would be really upset. I think they were like, oh, let's get the autistic girl. And they told because so they had these CGI images, right? They did all of us, they did her last, and they were like, okay, for Heather, we're gonna do a faux hawk. And they showed her with the faux hawk, like a really short, really, really like cropped on the sides and a little tiny, like tiny little mohawk. And she was like super excited. And we'd been talking about it before. We were like, they can do whatever they want. I hope they cut it all off, like let's go. And we both were like, we have very long hair because we can't afford haircuts. Let's chop it. Like whatever it is, it's a free haircut. So she was super into it. And then Tyra had to say, like in person, she's like in front of us. And she was like, oh, well, we we actually aren't doing that. That was a joke.
Oh my gosh. Was
We're
that
gonna
part of
keep
the
it
show or was it
like
behind
it
the
is.
scenes?
So they wanted that to be on air. They wanted it to be this big on air moment.
Yeah, a
Um,
breakdown.
Yeah, they wanted her to break down so they could be like, just kidding, we're not. We're leaving it just like it is. But she didn't care. She was super into it. And so it was so awkward that if you watch that makeover episode, you can hear that Tyra had to re-record voiceover over
Mm-hmm.
explaining Heather's makeover because it was so uncomfortable in the moment. She was like, well, we're actually not doing that. We're leaving it like it is. So Sorry.
That's so awkward.
It was
So that
so
just proves
awkward.
it.
And she had to re-record the voiceover, and it's like it's pretty obvious. It's like go back and rewatch that. If you're gonna rewatch one episode, rewatch that one because there's all these moments that they had to redo voiceover.
Yeah.
Excuse me. I'm drinking seltzer, which is a mistake, but um
Jeez. Yeah, that's
yeah,
messed
it
up.
was so awkward. And she was like, they definitely thought that I was just gonna freak the fuck out because I'm autistic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't watch that whole season. I watched a couple episodes before we recorded. Did they ever try to further exploit her because of her autism or try to use that against her?
I mean, any angle that they had on someone. So any diagnosis, any official diagnosis, because they also had all her medical records. So yes, for sure. And I do think, um, sometimes I, I don't know necessarily if they were trying to like push her into a meltdown, but the circumstances of shooting the show were very conducive to a meltdown, right? It's a lot of lights, it's a lot of sound, it's a
Yeah.
lot of time. On camera. It's right,
Mm-hmm.
like a 16-hour day with lights and cameras and having to be controlled and not having access to food and bathroom when you want. Like that's difficult for anybody. And I think I am not autistic, so I can't speak. I certainly can't speak to her experience, but I can say it was very difficult for me. And so I can't imagine if you add, further I am neurodivergent, so if you add even more on top of that, I can't imagine. Um,
Yeah.
so they didn't even really have to necessarily push her. The circumstances were already there. But yes, every interview that she had to be about that. And I'm sure, I mean, I can only imagine, given the questions they were asking me all the time, I'm sure that it was like, well, do you think that they don't like you because you're autistic? Do you think that they're talking about you behind your back because you're autistic? I'm sure it was anything they could do to exploit that and turn it into an insecurity instead of an asset.
Yeah. And a big part of your story, which we go into more depth in the interview, is they were trying to exploit your body dysmorphia or eating disorder and kind of, you said it was the seed of the eating disorder that they watered because of you being the quote plus size, huge air quotes plus size model. We even put it on the thumbnail, like, is she plus size?
Yeah,
Um,
they even, I don't know if I actually, I was packing up my office and I found the People magazine that had like the feature about the
yeah.
show, and it had a little thing that said, "Is she plus size?" 98% of our readers said no. And I was like, what did you ask? And who did you
Yeah.
ask? Like what?
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, that's so funny. I just saw that the other day, but I'm packing and everything's a nightmare. So I don't know where it is, but I just saw it the other day. But
So,
yeah.
yeah, we have about 15 minutes here. I think we have some questions. Let's see if Jonathan can put some up for us. I can hear the baby crying. It's real
Oh
bad.
no.
The baby's always with him. I think she just woke up from a nap. So let's see if he can get a question up for us. If not, I'll go to.
Man, I miss naps. My daughter is 3.5.
Oh
And we
man,
just we
that's when
just
they stop.
lost the
When do they
nap.
stop? No.
I don't even want to tell you because she was young, so don't worry about it.
Oh no.
Yeah, no,
Okay.
no,
I
seriously,
got
she's. Did you
I got one
find that
up.
the
Go ahead.
Laura Bensinger says, did you find that the book was therapeutic? Yes, very much. Highly recommend writing about your traumatic experiences. It's been so therapeutic, and I mean, like I said, I really didn't think of it as cult like when I started writing,
Yeah.
and not only was writing the book therapeutic, researching the book was therapeutic, talking to other girls, not just from my cycle, but other cycles, was so validating. And it really shed so much light on my own experience. And also, my cycle, we all trauma bonded and it was beautiful. And I will root for every single girl that was on my cycle for the rest of time.
Yeah.
Um, but it was like I sort of expanded that and I got to talk to all these other girls and it was really beautiful. And reconnecting and hashing it out. And I remember, really early on in the process, I sort of let Jenna know. I was like, I think I might write a book about the experience. And she was like, I am honestly still traumatized. And I was like, that's crazy. Were we on the same show? And so I really like realized and had my eyes open to a lot of experiences that I hadn't processed as traumatic. And then I was able to process them. And I truly feel so at peace with what happened. Like I really, I write in the book that people would always say, like, I'm so sorry, I'm sure you're sick of talking about this. And I was like, I'm really not. And I always wondered, like, why don't I get sick of talking about this? Like I do get sick of talking about stuff, and maybe I'm just very self-centered. But I was like, I never see, and I think what I was doing was I was turning it over in my head, trying to process it, but I couldn't because I wasn't looking at it fully and I wasn't acknowledging it for what it was. And
Mm-hmm.
so it was like I was turning it over like an oyster with a piece of sand. I was trying to turn it into a pearl, but I couldn't because I couldn't see it and I couldn't look at it and I wouldn't, like my brain was kind of protecting me from it. And in writing, I really like was able to see it and was able to process it. And it was really crazy because I remember I had this moment where I was like, man, I feel like I'm really kind of done talking about it. And then my editor was like, all right, you're going to have to promote it for a year. Let's go. And I was like, well, that's okay. I can do that. I can do that. But it was like, I just was like, man, like, I think when this year is like, I think when I'm done, I really like, I feel very at peace. I don't feel the need to like talk about it or process it anymore. It was really beautiful.
Yeah. I think a big part of that too is once you gain the vocabulary for what you experience, like you were saying, reading Cultish and really side by side being like, wow, this is parallel. How did I not see that before? Well, most people don't have that language of deprogramming or the type of things that are very specific to mind control in high control groups. And so
Yeah.
having that vocabulary unlocked, you're able to see it for what it is instead of just this thing that felt uncomfortable.
100%. Yeah, that's a great way to put it. Yeah. And yeah, having that language is so helpful. Um,
Yeah.
and yeah, so and like I said, I don't want to compare. I do have the perspective on top model. It's not the same as a religion. It's not the same as, a lot of like really harmful cults, Um, but I do think that, like you said, having that language helps us identify it and helps us
Yeah.
bring it out into the open.
Well, that's the thing. And that's why I mentioned at the very beginning that it's good to talk about these things because it helps you recognize it on a smaller scale and not just the I was trapped in a compound and severely abused scale. Because
Hmm.
obviously there's a huge range of experiences, like we've talked about, but having the awareness of, oh, this is slowly taking away my identity. Oh, this is a thought stopping cliche. Oh, they're trying to control the information that I'm getting. That's interesting. And if we can see it on a small scale, then we can avoid falling into the bigger scale cults. So I feel like it
Yeah.
is important to talk about.
Yeah. And also, we can say, okay, yeah, I mean, there's so many people that do want to control the information that you get on a large scale, and being critical and having critical thinking skills when you take in information is such a useful skill that I I thought I had, and I think I did have. I was taught critical thinking skills, but it's also like it was very humbling for me to be like, I had critical thinking skills. I was taught to question where I got my information and I still got suckered in. And as a result, I'm going to have so much more compassion for someone else. Like I would never judge someone who got suckered into a cult now. And I think I would have before I wrote the book, before I could acknowledge
Mm,
that on a smaller scale, it had
it
happened
happened
to
to
me as
you.
well.
Yeah. Yeah, that's such a great point. All right, let's see if we have any other questions. If you had to do it over, Jen asks, would you do it again?
I mean, if I could go back in time and like redo it, I think yes. My ideal scenario would be that I could go back in time and redo it knowing what I know now. I mean, that's the
Right.
dream, right? But even without that, you know, I it took me so long to get to a place in my life where I really was grateful for all the mistakes that I'd made and all the things that I'd done wrong. I don't know if that's my astrological sign or what that is, but I remember for years people would be like, "Well, but aren't you glad because it brought you where you were?" And I was like, "No. I made mistakes. I want to not have I want to be perfect. I want to have not made mistakes." But I don't know if it's having a kid. It's definitely having a kid. Having a kid, I'm like, I don't care. I would make any mistake again to make sure that I was here in my life to be her mom now and to do what I'm
Oh,
doing now. And so I I took a long time to get to that place. So I think even before I wrote the book, I think I would have said no, but now absolutely 100%. And also, yeah, I mean, I got a I got a book deal out of it. I'm not going to complain about that, you know. Um, and that's a beautiful thing. And also, it happened, and it happened to a lot of girls, and a lot of different iterations, and the similar exploitation happened to a lot of people in different fonts. And so
Hmm.
I think that that's a part of the entertainment complex. And so I don't regret that that happened to me, especially if I can facilitate conversations about it.
Yeah. And I would love to hear more experiences too. I know people really enjoyed your interview, and you're
Oh,
obviously a joy to talk to. So I
oh,
know you
thank
were
you.
basically the whole
Oh,
reason for that. But I would love to try and get more people who are on the show. Someone commented on your video that her sister was a winner in Germany and had PTSD from
yeah.
it. I was like, please reach out to me because I would love to hear different countries and how they approach things too.
Yeah. I mean, I mean, you should, if you can talk to a winner, I would love to hear, because their contract and they were under wraps, and their situation was different really from every other contestant in a lot of ways. So,
Yeah.
yeah. And yes, but if I had to do it over, like, would I ever do another reality show? Never say never, but probably not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's kind of how I feel now. We talked
Yeah.
about my reality stint of just random things, but I'm like,
Yeah.
yeah, I think I'm good. I think I'm good
I
there
think I'm
with
good.
that.
Yeah.
We'll stick to documentaries if that's what we want to go toward, but yeah, I'm good with
Yeah.
reality.
Yeah.
That
Like,
was
never
enough.
say never, but
I know, right?
yeah. Um,
Okay, let's do this question here. Matthew, how can you get back on your feet financially speaking after 2 months without any revenue?
I was lucky in so many ways and so privileged in so many ways, and it was so hard. And I truly cannot imagine. And like, I've talked to a lot of contestants who were devastated for years. I mean, it financially devastated them, and uh, I they never were able to have a successful modeling career because they couldn't get to New York. They couldn't get to a city. They couldn't have test shoots taken. They couldn't maintain the hair that they were given,
Right.
like, and sometimes it's not just like a hair, like I had to grow out my hair. Okay. So I had to find a job to support myself while I was at school and while my hair grew out, because modeling wasn't an option. That and by itself meant that modeling was not an option for me for a year. Um, but like, some girls had, sew-in extensions that weren't cheap or easy to maintain. Like, it wasn't
Right.
just letting your hair grow out, which by the way had a lot of awkward stages, but that's like it really was. I used to say it was like because it was kind of a little bang here and then short in the back. So it would grow out into a little mullet and then a flock of seagulls bang. So it was like party in the front and party in the back, but neither is a party that you want to go to. So it was pretty rough.
Oh
But like,
no.
I can't stress how, like, they would fly girls back to their small towns, right? They flew me back to Massachusetts. I was able to get to a school. I transferred to be at a school outside of New York City. So being near New York was an option for me. But there were a lot of times when I couldn't afford a train ticket to
Hmm.
get into the city. I would have to borrow the $12, or I couldn't afford gas for my car to go into the city. And like, I know that that is the biggest obstacle that a lot of girls face, where they're like, oh, I have this opportunity to be a model and I do not have the resources, because it's like any other freelance job, right? There are expenses.
Yeah.
Um, you might have the photos from the show, but if, like me, you don't look like your photos, you can't use them. So you have to do test shoots, and that money gets taken out of your first check. So even when you book a
Mm-hmm.
job, you're still not getting paid again. Um, and yeah, if you're not in a city, you have to cover those costs. And I know some girls were kept in I was kept in the hotel after I got eliminated for 2 weeks. They paid for about a week's worth of food. They took me to a grocery store and they paid for about a week's worth of food. The rest of the week they did not cover. So I had to buy my own food, and I wasn't allowed to leave the room. So the only option is room service from a pretty expensive hotel. Um, and also, anytime you want to leave the room, they're like, what do you want to do? Do you want to go to a movie? Do you want to go shopping? You have to pay for any of that. And then, they flew us home. Um, but like you had much less money. Luckily, I didn't have to, and again, I was so lucky I didn't have to pay rent, but I know there were girls who did, and it was really, really difficult. And I remember like one girl came to New York to visit me and then a couple other girls about a year after the show, and she had finally saved up enough money to come to New York and to meet with agencies. And one signed her, and it was great. But it took her that long. So
Yeah.
a lot of girls don't, to be honest.
Yeah, that's the tricky thing is people only see the, well, you're getting exposure, well, you're getting these contracts, you're getting these agencies, but they're not seeing the 5 steps backward that they put you from being on the
Yeah,
show also. It's very contradicting.
yeah. And I will say, like I've talked to people on other reality shows. Like I was talking to a contestant who was on, I think, a Bachelor and or maybe a Bachelor in Paradise. I'm not sure, and I don't actually know the difference. I don't, yeah, Bachelor
I don't watch
and
those.
or Bachelor in Paradise. I'm not sure, but she was like, yeah, it was really crazy because you have to buy all these like beautiful clothes to like be on the show and then also for appearances afterwards. And I was like, yeah, no, that's crazy. I definitely couldn't have done that. And I was like, especially because we didn't get paid. And she was like, oh, we got paid. So I think it might be different now. I hope it's different now. I hope to fuck it's different now.
I mean,
Um,
well, it was also a while ago, but when I did Millionaire Matchmaker, I think it was like 2013, maybe. But everyone who was trying to get the date with the guy because they had elimination rounds or whatever, I think it was a 2-day shoot of just trying like the casting process with Patty, which you already did auditions way before that, before you were on camera, of course. So auditions with casting, the auditions on camera with Patty, and then the mixer, which they pretended was 7 p.m. and was really 9 a.m. in the morning. Everyone's drinking apple juice in their wine glasses.
ah,
But those days were not paid. So everyone who wanted the opportunity to get the date
mhm.
didn't get paid. And then because I got picked to go on the date, I got $200 and I had to do a whole second or third day of filming. So really, it's like, did I get paid? Because I just spent three
Yeah.
days for 200 bucks.
Yeah. Yeah. No, but I do think like the Bachelor shows and stuff, they get like a
Like the
couple
main
hundred
ones.
dollars per
I
diem
think
a day,
so.
once they're on the show. So it's like they come
Yeah.
away with more money than they had. They're not working. So if they had a job that paid more than that, it's not as much as they would have had. But
Yeah.
I think they do get, and we did not, and they also don't have to pay for any of their own food, from what I understand.
Yeah.
That's not the norm anymore. I think they pay for food now, which is great.
Yeah. That's good.
Thank
I
God.
think that I've heard interviews with Love is Blind cast where they get paid for every episode they complete or every step they complete, which tries to
Yeah,
get
and the
them
circle
to go to the
too.
altar or something. Yeah.
Yeah, although the circle does destroy, when you see all the contestants on the circle writing in their diaries and stuff, they confiscate that diary. They don't let them have it.
That's crazy. I mean, I get
That's
it
real
on one
culty.
hand. Like, I understand they don't want this inner information to get out to the public, especially too far in advance. But at the same time, that's someone's personal thoughts that you're just gonna,
Also, like
sorry,
in
it's not yours
every
anymore.
book where the mom or the like authority figure destroys the diary, that's a bad thing. That's the bad guy. Like, if you're doing something that only bad guys do in movies and TV,
Yeah.
question, ask yourself some questions.
Yes. Okay, let's do one more question before we sign out here. Jonathan, do you have one? Ooh, thank you for the super
JL.
chat. From
Oh,
Cycle 8 was my best friend. Aw, I binged your audiobook
oh,
after your C2C interview. It's fantastic. Thank you for helping me feel closer to her. Oh, that's so
that's
great.
so great. I'm so touched that that helped you feel closer to her. I only
Yeah.
met her once, but everyone I know that talked to her said she was just like a light. So, um,
Oh,
I'm really sorry for your loss.
show a picture of your short hair. Oh my gosh, do you
Oh
have one on
God,
your phone?
okay.
I probably
Yeah,
do.
probably. Um,
It's on our thumbnail of the other video.
yeah. Hang on a
How do
minute.
I
Oh
get to
gosh,
it?
it's uh
Ugh,
here we
I
go.
can't zoom in on
Favorites.
this. You got it? You're
I
faster than I
sent
am.
one to you, so that makes
It's
me
in my
think.
email
Oh, no,
somewhere.
dang it. The problem is that I grew it out right after. Oh, here we go. Here we go. Here we go. I actually have two.
I just hit
Oh,
Google.
shut up, iPhone. Here we
Here
go.
we
I don't
go.
know if you. Here we go.
Oh wait, you got there you go.
Yeah, so that's.
Here's like a more realistic. Hold on. Focus.
Yeah, that's me.
Yeah.
I hadn't figured out that you got to make the makeup follow the line, so I did a lot of
Ooh.
downturned makeup.
Guys, look at this one. Hold on. Ooh, sexy mama.
That shoot was so fun. That was the first shoot where they like put body oil all over us, and I was like, "Oh my God, I'm so
Ooh.
shiny." Also, if I sit on pleather, I will fall right off. Like, let's go.
Slippery as a seal. All
Slippery as a
right.
seal. You can't catch me.
This has been so great. Thank you so much for coming back, Sarah.
Thank
And
you
do
so
you
much
have,
for having me.
is there anything that we didn't cover that you're like, okay, I just have to mention this one thing that we
I can't
missed?
think of anything, but buy the book because there's stuff in it.
Yeah.
And if you buy the book, then I can write another one. And I do want to write another one about being a plus size model in New York City. So
Yeah, that
buy
would
the
be
book.
a cool read for sure. The link is
Thank
in
you.
our description, guys, so you can get that easily. And if
Mhm.
you have not seen the first interview, go watch it now. There's so much
Yeah,
more to talk about.
so much. I know.
And yes, they can find you on social media. Is it
Mhm.
Sarah G. Hartshorne?
Sarah B.
Your
Hartshorne, like
B.
Sarah
Okay.
Banks.
Oh, obviously. And that link is also in the description, so everything's there for you guys. And I think that's it. Any other final thoughts before we go?
Oh gosh, so much pressure. I hang out with a 3.5-year-old all the time. My only final thought is like that's the level. That's where I'm at.
That's how I feel most days. I mean,
Yeah,
I love my daughter. She's the best. But sometimes
I know.
I'm like, babe, can I edit an episode? I need my brain to work again.
I gotta do something real grown up. I gotta talk. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I gotta
All
be a
right.
yeah.
Well, this was great, guys. Thank you so much for being here live and leaving your comments and questions. If
Yeah,
you're
thank you all
here,
so much.
yes, if you're here for the replay, leaving those comments also helps boost the algorithm. It's the best way to support the show. Liking, commenting, subscribing, of course, hit the bell so you don't
Mhm.
miss any other episodes or lives. And what did I say? Did I say liking? I did. All the YouTube things. You got it, guys. Thank you so much. We have channel memberships now. If you want to join, there are special YouTube perks like badges and custom emojis and stuff like that that you can get, priority responses to comments and all of that. So check that out if you're interested. And until next time, follow your highest excitement, be conscious, and be well.
Yay.